Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Late Challenge podcast. I'm Mo Stewart. There's Gareth Roberts. The Premier League is back. Did you miss it? Did you? Well, judging by how most of you are feeling looking at the internet, probably not. Liverpool didn't exactly get off to a cracking start away at St James's Park at a 2-2 draw, but we will be diving into all of that. First of all, I have to say that me and him are probably in a better mood than all of you, because me and him have just spent the last hour chatting to John Barnes. So that was great, wasn't it?
Pretty cool, to be fair. He was on good form, and look, you know, I'm not one to sort of not be, you know, I was like, John Barnes is coming in. John Barnes is my hero going up. Still got the top from when I was a kid, and I thought, oh fuck it. So I brought it in. And John signed it. And that's going up on my wall, I'm afraid, because why not? Do you know what I mean? There's like one of the best players I've ever seen play for Liverpool was in here, sat here, and that was in my house. And now I've got a nice top sign. So I'm showing off, I know, but when he's talking about mood, well, that's put me in a good one. And yeah, that'll be out later this week, so you'll be able to see it.
Absolutely.
It was a good chat, wasn't it?
It was. We went in directions that even you and I weren't expecting. No, but that's the beauty of talking.
He was on good form.
Yeah. By the way, if some of you felt like that shirt was going to be a raffle in a future late chance thing, no.
It says to Robbo on it, and it's going on a frame, and it's going up on my wall, because that's one of my first kits from when I was a kid. So I was never giving that away, was I?
No.
Let's be honest. I mean, we probably could have thought something out of a prize and all that, but too busy boxing myself off.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time you hear of John Barnes on the Late Challenge based on the conversation we had. So we'll have him back, don't worry. Anyway, we've delayed it long enough. Let's get into the game. It was never going to be boring, was it? In Andoni Iraola, we always said that, and he proved us correct. Liverpool, I think it's fair to say, got out of jail big time, equalising with the last kick of the game. Newcastle came this close to thinking that they had the perfect day, but...
It's a good last kick of the game, by the way.
It was a ridiculous last kick of the game. Balls of steel, that man.
Yeah. But mad as well that he said that basically he didn't even know if the ref had blown to say he could take it or not. Because I was like, this is taking ages. Yeah. I had a mad debate on the radio this morning about, you know, the way like some people make content by turning everything into something that it's not.
Yes.
Type of thing. And there was this mad debate in inverted commas about, well, surely it should have been Isak that took it. And it was like, how did you work that out?
No.
He's the last fella I wanted near it. He'd already missed the sitter. You know, the whole ground was on his back for the whole game and before and after and all the rest of it. I'm not sure he coped with it that well. Meanwhile, the fella that takes pens for Hungary and slots them more often than not is right there, ready to take it. Bang.
And by the way, he's just been given a new leadership role in the team, and he's probably looked into the eyes of Isak and said, don't worry, mate, I'll take this decision out of your hands.
I was fine with that.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. I think the narrative... people would have been happy to see him score. And don't get me wrong, I'd have loved him to score at some point in the game. But once that moment happened, and considering how important the scoring of that penalty was in the context of everything that happened in the previous 98 minutes, there was only one man to take it for me. Now, I mentioned 98 minutes. It was a late goal. And this is what I was going to say before. Newcastle might have thought they had the perfect day, but really they should have known. Because this isn't the first time this has happened to them. Let's rewind the clock, shall we? Last season, Rio Ingamoa, 90 plus 10. 23-24, Darwin Núñez, 90 plus 3. The season before, Fabio Carvalho, 90 plus 8. A little bit before that, Divock Origi, 18-19, 86. Gave him a little bit of time there. 96-97, Robbie Fowler, 90 plus 4, and the one that everyone remembers, Stan Collymore, 95-96, 90 plus 2. So we have form, and yes,
they must hate us.
They absolutely must hate us.
I mean, it's become one of them like sort of mad manufacturers, not the right word. It just like, you know, it's not. there's no obvious reason for there to be a rivalry, if you like, between Liverpool and Newcastle, but it sort of feels like it's grown into one, because I know Everton always had beef with them for reasons I'm not entirely sure about. Feels like, well, all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And now the Isak stuff on top. Because there was a bit of a are we all going to put everything down and be nice because of the fantastic tribute to Kevin Keegan? And to be fair,
we did at that point.
We did, yeah. It was brilliant, wasn't it? I tweeted something before that someone sent us, just in case you haven't seen this, because I feel like you should. I'm sure you all saw it, and it's had loads of coverage in the media, rightly so, and all the rest of it. But one of our regular listeners, watchers, etc., sent us early. I'm scrambling to find it as I'm filling.
The John Murray commentary.
John Murray commentary, that's what I was after, yeah. From 5 Live, him and Pat Nevin. Yeah. And it's just brilliant. It's just one of them where it's like the right words, said in the right way, and just sort of sums it up. And he says, well, Pat Nevin says, actually, it's like a church to Kevin Keegan. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Spot on.
I mean, those two are very much at the top of their field, so I listen to them talk about anything. So I always knew that they would be able to get the tone right. But you're right, it was such a brilliant moment in terms of he meant so much to both teams, and for all the ferocity around the Isak stuff last season and this season, both sides were able to kind of stop the war, to just recognise that and then carry on with it. It's weird though, because talking about all the Isak stuff, and we are going to talk about him quite a bit over the course of the show, I felt like last season it worked against them, where they got themselves a bit too worked up, and then they were unable to play football. Obviously, Anthony Gordon gets himself sent off, etc., etc. This season felt like they channeled it a little bit better. Like, for all the talk that we did on this show last week, and lots of other people saying this is a very good time to play Newcastle, they've lost all their players, they're in disarray, etc., etc. This team had never played together before. Turns out it was a good time to play Liverpool, because it was clear that this team is not yet comfortable doing what is being asked of it.
No, I mean, I actually thought the initial throws of the game that we started quite well, quite positively, and then we all know sort of what happened. And I think why you're seeing such a almost violent reaction from fans both in the ground and online is it was just too much of a reminder of last season, wasn't it? It was just like, it felt like last season on replay, in terms of, we know what we can do going one way. And look, remember this time last year, okay, Ingemoa that time, scores a winner. But, we had that run, didn't we, where we were all taking the piss, saying, it can't go on like this, it can, and we kept getting the late winners. And we were doing the basketball stuff. And, I remember Carragher on the telly just saying, it's not sustainable. He was asking Slot about it. We were all talking about it, saying, not sure. And then eventually the wheels fell off, and then he adapted it to an extremely boring, overcautious approach to try and sort of stop the rot. Then he tried to put it back again a little bit, but by then the season was on its arse. And so, I it's almost like I feel a little bit like there are a lot of us where we've got almost PTSD from last season, and we're so desperate to see something different. And look, I think we all, no doubt in our friend groups or whatever, I've said what we see the season going like, where we think Liverpool might finish, that kind of thing. I'm going into this season thinking Liverpool can get third or fourth. I'm not going into the season thinking we can win the league. And so in the context of it, a point away at Newcastle, just on the surface without digging into it, it's not that bad. But then it's all the stuff that you said. It's the expectation beforehand of this match. You look at them, the disarray they're in, the players they've sold, an unknown, but like a unknown quantity in terms of the manager. You expected that Liverpool could go there and do something. And look, they have actually gone there and dominated in terms of all the stats and the metrics and all that kind of stuff. But as it was, they're behind for the majority of the game, and they're leaving it to the very last kick of the game to get something out of it. And that doesn't feel satisfactory against what you expected.
No, and then you add in the fact that not only did it take so long to get the equaliser, but the 2 goals that were conceded are 2 very bad goals to concede for different reasons. You add on to the fact that the second goal came literally seconds after just getting back into the game. So that compounds it worse. And so you have all of these things. You mentioned the PTSD from last season. You add all these things in, it's obviously going to feel worse. But this is where I try to be a little bit more reasonable than most people are able to be at this point in time. It's important to remember this is the first game of the season. It's important to remember that we all said for the last few weeks, it's not going to be perfect straight away. It's going to have to be a bit ropey before it gets better.
I think people are just worried, though, about, what's the plan? What are we doing? That sort of set, the show's called Stuck in the Middle with 2, because it's like you've essentially got 4 attackers and then 2 midfielders that are joining in as well. And, you said it last week, and I got what you were saying, but I just didn't like it when you were saying, well, we're going to be relying on the centre-halves to do things. And I'm like, but we've seen that. We've seen that film. We've seen that play. We've seen that unfold already, and it doesn't work. I don't want to see, Virgil backing off doing a zigzaggy run. And like, people are criticising that, but, he's used to having, or he did have previously, a midfield in front of him that did something that helped him.
Yeah.
And this midfield doesn't. Not like none of them, as we saw, are defensively minded. And I know people will point to the coach and the instructions and all the rest of it. And look, it's, you obviously end up concentrating on the moments that matter, don't you? And obviously, they break away. Alanga's fast as fuck. It's a goal. But, equally, why doesn't Gravenberch just shoot? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you know what I mean? And like, there's no legislating for him not shooting.
No.
Equally on the second one, there's no legislating for that many players being around their players and none of them going, just boot the fucker and bring them down and take a yellow card.
So this is my point.
But but this is the thing though about personnel then, isn't it? About the players. It's like there is no one there who is ultimately defensively minded. I mean, people keep going on about Gravenberch, and and he did do a good job in a role, but it's still not his role.
No.
It's still not, his innate ability is not a defensively minded midfielder, is it?
So, no, you're absolutely right on that, and I think that is part of the problem. In the whole midfield thing, we're going to come on to it because it is pretty much the overriding idea of the show and the thing that most people are talking about. I can see it from both sides, put it that way. But in terms of the team, you're right. I think our good friend Josh Williams tweeted that might have been the most attacking Liverpool team there's ever been. The most attacking Premier League team there's ever been. Because if you think about Kirkes and Frimpong,
fullback,
and then your 2 midfielders and then the 4 attackers.
And they were mad as well, weren't they? That was another frustration in the game, really, that they're like Liverpool's final ball throughout the whole contest was terrible. So, and I'm not seeing so many people saying that really, but it's like there's so many times we're in a decent position, we've got ourselves up the pitch, and then you're crossing to no one, you're passing in straight to their feet, and it's like, why are so many of them off it?
But that's such as an important part of it as being in position, because if you are able to complete your offensive action, if it ends with a shot, with a goal, with a save, with a goal kick, with a corner, those things don't lead to an immediate counter-attack. Those things allow you to then get back into shape before they come at you. If you don't do those things, then your shape, if it's not right, is even more exposed. So where I am with this midfield thing at the moment is, look, I can see the manager's point of view. I can see what he wants to do. What he wants to be able to do is get to a position where you can have attack-minded players who are so well-versed in the system that you get the best of both worlds. So they can still get their attacking instincts to go up the pitch, but when it goes wrong, they're so drilled in what they're supposed to do that it mitigates any of the problems.
Wirtz has never put a tackle in or being physical, though, is
he? Yeah. But look. But this is the thing, right? I'm of the opinion here right now that I know that lots of people are going to disagree with me. I've not seen enough yet to say that it definitely can't work with these players. I can see enough to make me worry that it might not work with these players, but I'm not writing off that it definitely won't work with these players.
I think the problem with that, though, as well, is that, you know, the planning or the strategy or the lack of both of those things that has led to Liverpool having the squad that they've currently got is really frustrating and putting fear into Liverpool fans about what's ahead. And there is 1 week as of today, 1 week at 11 o'clock tonight, when there is a window for Liverpool to buy players. And we've talked about this before, and we talked about it in depth, and the situation remains. We still haven't bought lads for the wings. It seems to be that it's being briefed. It was in James Pearce's report that, you know, they don't feel, Liverpool as a collective, that they need a midfielder or they need a defensive midfielder. They do feel that they need 2 more wingers. I think people would agree on the wingers, but I think we do need a defensive midfielder, because even if you choose to field one, and obviously later in the game, McAllister does sit in front of them.
He does.
But he was shit last season. And then, you know, you've got Endo, and we like him, and he wears a gum shield, and he's a cult hero, and he's a great fella, but he's a limited footballer. So there's got to be a better option than those 2 out there for a defensively minded midfielder who can step in at the right time and do jobs for Liverpool. And when he's just completely not there in the squad, I think people are rightly worried and rightly looking at Richard Hughes and saying, what was the plan or strategy here, mate? Because I don't get what it is.
Because this is the thing, this is the difference between a defensive midfielder, as lots of people believe it, or lots of people think of it and perceive it, is the guy who just sits there in front of the midfield, who doesn't move around, is there to screen the centre-backs, and that's his only job. Now, that...
If you think anything on the show is infuriating, by the way, feel free to fucking not watch instead of putting daft fucking comments in front of my face, okay? So
anyway, the whole concept of the Fabinho, he's the one that most people talk about when they think about defensive midfielder. The guy who sits in front of the defence, his only job is to protect the back 4, screen them, pass short to someone else, but be in position when things go wrong, right? That player, that position does not exist in this world. Is in as much as if you had a Fabinho, that wouldn't be what he would be being asked to do. He would still be being asked to get up the pitch and go out and harry and press. Now, that's one thing, but there is a halfway house between a Fabinho who doesn't move and the midfielders we currently got. You can have a guy with a little bit more defensive instincts, but still doing the job that Iraola wants him to do. The guy who I refer to quite frequently is Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams is not Fabinho, but Tyler Adams has got more defensive instincts than any of the other midfielders we've got. So there is room for a mid-place. There is room for everyone to be happy here. And I think that's the frustration, like you say, in terms of the squad building, because you can tell me that, yes, Alexis McAllister might be the person tasked with doing that, but I think in terms of stopping a counter-attack, we've already seen that's not his forte. If he is ahead of the ball, then we're in trouble, because he's literally useless in the counter-attack situation. He can't turn and run. That's not his game. So using him and then making him be in a situation where that might be the case doesn't work for me. Trey Neone, you might say, okay, well, he's got a bit more athleticism, not a lot more, but a bit more than McAllister, and he's got a few more defensive instincts. But it's still really young. It's still very much at the beginning. Yeah. And when you see the way that goal was conceded, the first goal, where Liverpool were literally, looked like they were about to score, and then 30 seconds later, they conceded a goal, you can see how important these positions are. So it's too important for me to be left up to someone like Trey Neone. So I agree. I can see a world where once Antonio Iraola has had 2 months to drill everybody, to drill Szoboszlai into knowing when he can go and when he can't go. I can see a world where
in him. I just think he wants to be up there. He wants to be in a 10 position.
But he doesn't have to. He's not
a double pivot fella.
No,
he's not a fella sat in front of the fence, is he?
No, I agree. But I mean, he does do it sometimes for Hungary. He does play in the central midfield sometimes for Hungary. But look, the point...
He tends to try and rely on the fact that he's got a brilliant engine to do everything, doesn't he? He wants to be the box to box type fella.
The Superman. Here I come to save the day. And in that way, I mean, a fellow who I follow a lot, Sam Maguire, he compared him to Jordan Henderson when he was playing the sixth, as much as that he does tend to kind of follow the ball a bit like a puppy, and that means that you're often out of position when things go wrong. And I can see that in him as well. The point I was trying to make is that you can see a world where after 2 months of drilling, they're better at it. But being better at it than they are now and being good enough at it to say that this is going to work going forward are two different things.
Yeah, and you're quite right, mate, to say, like it's literally one game. And, the manager might think certain players are capable of things and then sees they aren't and goes, okay, well, I'm going to have to adapt then. He might want people in the transfer market, and he was certainly, making it clear that he expects that he thinks there will be deals right up until the final day and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. It'd be very surprising. I mean, some people might say it's not, but it would be very surprising if we got to the end of the window and absolutely nothing happened. And we're going to crack on with what we've got.
Put it this way, it would be seismic if they did, because he's been so explicit in saying we will. And that's the thing. That kind
and it's not just the midfield thing, that is it?
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
Like you're looking at, that's the first time that Isak has played 90 minutes for Liverpool, and he was goosed. At the end, and he's had to do the 90 in this in this cauldron of hate, because there isn't anyone.
No,
there's no one to bring on. And again, that's another one where you're like, was there nothing you could do? Is there no, because one of the worst things I think from a fan perspective is if you feel someone somewhere at your club is sort of semi-writing a season off. And no one, I get the new manager and people will say transition and all this kind of stuff, but there's an expectation that Liverpool compete for things at the very least.
Yes.
And we said that before a ball had been kicked, and that remains the case.
Absolutely.
So, you can't have, and this is what some people's fears were, wasn't it? We're getting Areola in. I'm not one of them. I think it's a good appointment, but people are saying things like, well, it took him 9 games at Bournemouth to even win a game.
It's not going to have that here.
You can't have that here. You haven't got that time here. You can see him already saying things like, I see when I say something, it turns into this.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to have to be careful with what I say. That's the difference. I mean, Michael Owen this morning, I've heard Michael Owen this morning sort of going on about Isak and sort of, this is a problem, this, and this. And I'm like, lad, he's played 190 minutes for Liverpool, which was yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, before we start writing him off, like, give him a run, see how it goes. Like, there are worrying things there for me. And, I had hoped that he would react in a certain way to the shit he got, and he didn't.
He didn't. And that's not everyone. I mean, for example, you can think of some Liverpool strikers of the past who would have thrived in that scenario, and they're not. But not everyone's like that. And
that's the Scouse thing, I think, isn't it, a little bit as well? Because we revere someone like Souness going to Rome and just being like, fuck off, I'm here and all that. But that's not everyone's character.
No.
It definitely not is, I don't think.
No.
But that doesn't mean he's shit and not suited to Liverpool, which I was saying after yesterday, and I was like, it's too early for that, lads.
But I think part of his problem is that he was always going to be on a short leash in a lot of people's minds because of the way he joined. Yeah. And whether that's fair or not, that's just how people's minds work. I think the other thing that didn't work in his favour yesterday is that the other fella embroiled in his saga, Johan Wissa, played very well for Newcastle, noticeably well for Newcastle. And
best game.
Yeah, he'd had as bad and as disrupted a season. Obviously, he didn't break his leg, but he was out for quite a long time. And then he came back and he wasn't very good for quite a long time. Like, he was fit and playing badly for longer than Isak was. So for him to be able to click into gear at this point, suddenly, by comparison, people are looking at Isak and saying, well, why aren't you doing that? And it's not necessarily fair. That's just the way that people's minds work sometimes. But we've spoken a lot about Isak. We're going to have to talk about his partner in crime, and I don't use that term loosely, the guy behind him, Florian Wirtz, who has also taken a fair bit of criticism after that game. Now, we sat here last week, weeks before, saying these two are going to have to be at their best for Liverpool to be at their best. They are very important to how the season goes. And we've also said with Florian, we want to see him involved more. We want to see him show his personality more. I want to see a bit more bite, a bit more fight from him. I feel like we got to the end of the game and my feelings were the same. And as much as it wasn't quite there. And I thought it was really interesting what Gary Neville said, for a change, that if he'd have been the Man United player, Ferguson would have said to him, stop playing around over there, stop dropping deep, get up there, get up with your striker, stay in the most dangerous part of the pitch. And I felt like that's something that he could probably do with someone telling him.
Yeah, I mean, something has to happen, isn't it? I mean, that was his 50th appearance for Liverpool. Wow. You know, like, it's not like, you know, he hasn't had a go. And it's sort of like we're still talking about adapting to the league, getting used to the physicality, finding a way he can influence games in this league and that kind of thing. You know, he's got 5 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League from 34. In his 50 appearance for Liverpool all comps, he's got 7 goals and 10 assists. I mean, you know, for what we paid for him and what you were expecting to get, well, it doesn't stack up, does it? And, you know, to sort of put into context as well, in the Bundesliga, in the season before he signed for Liverpool, he scored 10 and assisted 13. The season before, he scored 11 and assisted 12. There's another season where he's into double figures for assists as well. So he's consistently done it there. He needs to consistently do it here. And funnily enough, I seen some of the stuff that Neville was saying, and he was talking about players that sort of flit in and out of games and influencing them here and there, but aren't quite what you want. He talked about Ozil, I think. Yeah. He mentioned Havertz. And it was interesting as well, Sturridge mentioned Coutinho. And, you know, I was looking this morning at Coutinho's figures, and I found it quite interesting, to be honest, because I think he's like, we all remember the good things about him, don't we? And we all think about him, apart from his dodgy back injuries and, you know, spoiling for a move and all the rest of it. You know, you think, oh yeah, he was great, Coutinho. Remember this goal, remember that goal, etc. and so on. When you dig into it, you know, he wasn't doing loads at first. You know, like he comes, doesn't he, in the January. So there's 13 league appearances from then. 3 goals, assists as well. Well, 5 to be fair in that early bit. But you know, the most assists he ever got in a season was 9, and the most goals he ever got, well, to be fair, after 2.5 years, that's when it seems to hit. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so he got 12, he got 14, he got 12, and so you're a bit like, that's took him a while there, hasn't it? And you know, how forgiving is anyone going to be if it's a similar thing with Wirtz?
I'm not sure he'd get that far.
No, and we don't. As you say, and as so many other people have said, you know, we need them to hit the ground running. We need them to contribute. The same for Isak. There's no other options there. There's no one else there.
No, and that's another reason why I think the scrutiny is so high, because, like you say, there is no one else. I mean,
put all their eggs in that basket, and you know, and it seems they want to carry on putting eggs in baskets as a policy. You know, they want to go and blow 150 on Barcola. When isn't there an argument to say, buy probably 3 players that would make the squad look stronger, and wouldn't that actually help? Maybe, especially if you can go and get, you know, the fella that. I think you've got him on your agenda, the Brentford fella.
Oh.
How's everyone missed him?
£39 million.
£39 million. And he was in the top 3 for stats, in all the stats in League 1. And it's like, for whatever reason, no one fancied him, including us.
It was one of those things, because he was on he was one of those people who was touted as being someone who Liverpool should go for. Him and Lamine Camara, we heard lots of it early on in the season, but then we didn't actually hear of any Liverpool interest. The moment I saw that Brentford were in for him, I was like, shit. This is going to be one of those where we're going to have to try and sign him for £90 million in 18 months' time.
And it's things like that, I think, that is really frustrating in the sort of the bigger picture of Liverpool. You look at how Brentford are run, you look at how Brighton are run, and okay, we're Liverpool and we're on a different level and we operate in a different way. And maybe there's a thing to say, if we're being kind, that if Liverpool come knocking, the selling club immediately throws a premium on because it's Liverpool and things like that. But nevertheless, the way Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford unearth these players on the regular, and meanwhile we seem to have moved away from doing stuff like that to just, we'll buy the really obvious fella for loads of money as a strategy.
So I have to acknowledge the fact that it's easier. Or should I say, there's less issues if you fail at Brentford.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Than there is at Liverpool.
It's more forgiving. Yeah,
it's more forgiving, and so therefore it's easier for them to take risks. And partly they have no choice because the 150 million quid fellas aren't going to Brentford anyway. But all that said, the one thing that they are good at is highlighting the profile of the player and saying, okay, this guy can do these things, let's get him in. Whereas, like you say, a lot of the time, Liverpool seems to be trying to buy for someone who has the stature of the club and all those things, almost as more than the actual talents of the footballer.
And where they haven't done that this summer, the lad where they didn't do that and it was more of that type of signing, he's won the penalty.
Yes.
Munoz.
Let's come on to Victor Munoz then.
Just sorry, there's a couple of live chats that from quite a while ago, which we should acknowledge because we always do, because it's people being sound and contributing to this thing living on. So David M87 has thrown in £1.99 on the super chat, and Cheers. He says, if there's no improvements, would you drop Wirtz? I mean, he's hooked on 60.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I think that's a live possibility.
Yeah. That didn't sound like or seem like or feel like a manager who gives much of a fuck about reputation there.
No. And I think the other thing we mentioned, and again, this comes into the context of Victor Munoz. You look at who came on, him, Lewis Kumas. Look at who wasn't even on the bench, Chiesa and Elliott.
Yeah.
So the idea that Elliott could have been in the backup run for Wirtz doesn't appear to be a thing. But as we mentioned before, we have Dom Szoboszlai. And I think there's been quite a few times over the last 18 months where we've gone away from the McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and it hasn't worked. And then we've gone back to it, and suddenly everyone's felt a little bit more familiar and a little bit more comfortable with things. So I felt like the three of them felt better or a little bit more comfortable towards the end of the game when they were there. But as we've said before, we can't necessarily rely on McAllister to be at his title-winning peak because we haven't seen it for so long.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
we've got Stephen Meaney as well.
Right, Stephen.
He's thrown in €10 and he says, hi, gents. Feels a bit wild to be moving Gakpo on now when he looks in decent nick and replacing him with a Minte who's out until November. Decent player, but don't really get that transfer currently.
I get the interest in Yankuba Minte. I think he's, again, talking about profiles and that kind of thing. I can see a world in which he comes in and helps. But yeah, I think I would be even more reluctant to get rid of Cody Gakpo now than I was before the game. Yeah. I think he was...
Man of the match?
He was man of the match. He was our most effective attacker by a country mile. And you can say, oh, well, he's playing for a move, or you can say this or that and the other. He was playing for Liverpool, and he was giving it all for Liverpool.
He scored a belter.
And he scored a belter. And interestingly enough, that goal came from him being in a central position. So what we were saying before about Isak, if we have to take him off, or who's the guy, he's the one I would trust the most out of everyone else at the moment.
Yeah.
And look, if Liverpool's only attacking options that they buy in are Bradley Barcola and Minte, or even if it's Barcola and Mbaye, None of those play up front. Like, we need another guy to play up front. And at the moment, it is him.
Yeah. So, and if Gakpo's going to help fund one or both of those, it's going to be Kumas.
Yeah.
That's going to be your only replacement until Ekatike is fit, basically. Unless you're suddenly saying, oh, well, I've had that back off people on. So, Barcola can play up front and Munoz can play up front and all this, and I'm like, well, it's news to me, lad.
So Victor Munoz played up front for Castilla and for Osasuna, but Castilla is basically the second division of Spanish football, and at Osasuna he was playing in a strike partnership with Ante Budimir, who's 6'4". So he was doing a lot of the centre forward in and then knocking it down to Munoz, who was doing the things he does well, running in behind.
On his question about Minte as well, I got asked about it when I went on Radio Merseyside and then randomly got stick for saying I just said that it's come a bit out of the blue was what they clipped me up saying. And what I meant by that was he's been available all summer.
Yeah.
And I know he was mentioned somewhere at some time in some report way back when, but if this was your guy, if this was your fella, if this is who you wanted, what were you waiting for? Because he wasn't playing in the World Cup. He's been knocking around all this time. And also as well, that it seems we're already sort of jumped to they want 70. And it's like, I get it in terms of, he's played in the Premier League. He's proven that he can deal with the physical stuff. He can play both sides. He's fast. Okay. But his actual output, does that warrant 70 million quid?
So, personally, I think it's difficult because I was saying all last season that Brighton's biggest problem was that they were chopping and changing their forwards too much. No one was able to get in any rhythm, any rents. So I look at his numbers from last season and say, you could convince me that wasn't all his fault. But you're right. Definitely, he was not the first choice. He was not even, I don't think, the second choice. And that's why Liverpool didn't go for him further on in the summer. Because first they wanted Yan Diomande, and then they wanted Ibrahim Mbaye. And when both of those deals, for different reasons, became undoable, now they've gone to Minte. And obviously, Brighton are no mugs. So they've sat there and they've watched this all happening. And they're like, oh, okay, desperate now, are you? 70 million quid, please.
And there's only a week left.
Yeah.
And you definitely need someone because even your own manager's saying you need someone.
Exactly.
We've also had from Blade V8 a fiver. Thank you, mate. And says, can we discuss the dearth of bastards as well as DMs in this team?
Absolutely.
Far too nice on and off the ball and wait to press rather than making teams uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm funnily enough, I'm with you all day on that, mate. We don't have any real obvious bastards. I was impressed by Xhaka. I think he's probably got the potential to have some bastards.
Yeah.
We didn't see loads of bastards. We just saw a fella who's more than competent in his position. Better, I would say, already than the fella he's replaced. Certainly better with the ball. Yeah. So a good start from him. But yeah, I get that. I mean, again, we've already referenced it, but there's the second goal. The idea that so many of them can swarm around a fella and none of them think, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the most rudimentary thing in football. And again, I did like that Iriola actually said that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, fair play, because some managers would skate around that, wouldn't they? And definitely wouldn't say it in public. And he's just gone, one of them should have fouled him.
Yeah. I mean, all of the best teams have got someone who does those kind of take one for the team fouls or tactical fouls, as Guardiola used to call them. Like, they're really important. And look, I think Szoboszlai probably is the most likely of those to do it. And I think, ironically enough, when I watched it back again, I think he tried to do it, but because he overcommitted, he basically made it easier for Vista to get away from him. So you have to be smart when you do it. But yeah, I agree. I think that you need a lot more ruthlessness, a lot more, I wouldn't even call it being evil. It's just, I mean,
Just nous.
Yeah, nous, absolutely.
Bit of dark.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking to John before, he was talking about Ronnie Whelan and about how even back then they were all about, you do what you get away with. And I don't think that there's anyone who really thinks like that in our squad.
I had an interesting conversation with my mates on Friday in the pub. We were just talking about how, like you're always, whether you've done, whether you can do your best, but you will always see things through the lens of you support this club.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And we were talking about various things in football, and there was a couple of blues in the conversation as well. And we were talking about how, things you hate in footy and things like we were saying about, the clamping down, obviously, on all the pulling and pushing in the box this season and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the lads said, one of the things I absolutely hate is that thing where the ball's there, they shield it, they wait for the touch, they go down and, blah, blah, blah. And I said, and there's a perfect example of that thing we were talking about before where you view it through your lens of supporting your club. Because when Dietmar Hamann did that, we all hailed that as absolute genius. Oh, isn't it brilliant the way he sticks his arse out, wins the free kick, takes the pressure off us, and then, we're all facing the other way and we can start again. But when other players do it, fucking cheating bastard, there needs to be a new rule.
It's funny you said Dini, because the two players who I think are going to do that is Daniel Agger. Because whenever Daniel Agger would go on his runs out of defence, he would always manage to win a free kick. Even if he overran the ball, he was just a legend at it. And of course, James Milner. James Milner, the king of winning a free kick at a time when you're under the cosh and you just need to waste a bit of time. But those kind of mentality. And again, look, there are players in the current squad who played with James Milner who will have been aware of how important that is because when he did it. So you'd hope that someone would be like, okay, well, who's going to do it? And I mean, a lot of time Virgil is not really able to do that from his position because if he does it, then potentially giving away a free kick in a bad position. If it doesn't work, then someone's going through on goal. But someone else has to have that mentality. And look, if the manager's saying it publicly, then the chances are that he's saying it to them in the dressing room. So hopefully someone will stick their arm up.
Yeah, let's hope we turn into a gang of our lasses before they get the end of the season.
But so yeah, I said we're going to talk a bit about Victor Munoz because I mean, you were mentioned before about how we were slightly upset or disappointed more that Isak didn't react to getting boos from the crowd. Victor Munoz was getting boos from the crowd, and he seemed to enjoy it. And look, not everything that he tried came off. But you saw enough from him to think that if you're late in a game and you're playing against a team that are probably getting a bit tired, he's exactly the kind of person who can inject a little bit of energy, inject a little bit of oomph into a game. He could be an old bastard.
Yeah, it was a good cameo from him, wasn't it? And obviously he's won the pen and, absolutely vital to his nicking a point when all looked lost, literally the last kick of the game, etc. But yeah, it looks good. I mean, there's an argument now, obviously, to say that, come Forest on Saturday, does he start on the right? Because, Rio absolutely struggled out there. And we'd highlighted that, before the game, hadn't we? We'd said after pre-season games that, we weren't sure about him being out there. You could tell it wasn't natural to him. I mean, Lewis Hall's very good fullback. He is. And was too good for him, basically, wasn't he? Let's be honest. So yeah, maybe Munoz is out there for Forest. Who knows? It'd be interesting to see. I should say actually, this is a decent point to say it. We are going to do another show from now on. We have a crack at doing like a second show a week. Which initially will stick out for free, and then we're going to stick it behind the Patreon / YouTube member paywall, and hopefully it makes you come over. So we'll still do the second show on a Monday that we always did, where we can talk about anything we feel like, but the Thursday show will be very much midweek sports special, will be about sport, footy, the games that are coming ahead and all the rest of it. So don't want to talk too much about Forest because we'll do it then. But yeah, so look out for that. And like I say, we'll make it free first few times. Hopefully you like it, and then hopefully you follow us over and give us a subscribe on the paid side of things, because we need to ramp that little bit up.
Yeah.
To keep it all going. But yeah, it'll be interesting off the basis of lots of little things like that we saw. Well, what does he do come Saturday and them at home? But no, he's done well there, hasn't he? And he does look like he's got something about him as well.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think he's someone who you can see growing in influence. And again, you want a squad of players. So you want someone who's occasionally can come in and start and look really good, but then occasionally can come off the bench and really improve you. And that's squad building, absolutely. And I think he does look more suited at this point in time to the right-hand side than Rio. He is a little bit more experienced than Rio. We have to remember that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a fellow who was in the World Cup squad for the team that won it. And obviously he didn't get on the pitch because he had a little niggles and stuff like that. But he was good enough to get in that squad. And it's only picking, 25, 26 players? So he's got something about him.
He's clearly like a different skill set as well, isn't he? Which is what you want. So, we all know what Rio can do. I do think at the minute, I see some people being what I would say is overcritical of him. I mean, like, let's remember his age. He's not even 18.
No, but I knew this was going to happen. I said second season. It happens to all Liverpool young players. It happened to Gerald Quansah. Happened to Conor Bradley. This is just something that happens whereby you get you get a free pass in the first season, and then suddenly the criticism comes in the second season. And it's not always justified. It's not always fair, but it's something that he's going to have to deal with. Now, I think from what we've seen of him as a person, as a character, I'll back him to be able to deal with it.
Seems very level-headed, doesn't he?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I would not be surprised if we see it more on the occasion. I don't know how long we've done because I never look at it a while. We've got 10 minutes to go. Right, okay. So let's move on to some of the other things we've got on the agenda. I've just got written down here, Arrivederci Curtis. After 16 years of the club, 228 senior appearances, 22 goals, 6 trophies, including 2 Premier Leagues, Curtis Jones is now officially a player of Internazionale. A fee rising to £30 million has been agreed. A little bit less than what the club was saying they wanted all summer in terms of £35 million. But this move has felt inevitable for a while.
Yeah, and it feels right as well. I think at the end of the day, I mean, there's you can make an argument to say squad-wise, numbers-wise, depth-wise, we should have just gone and said bollocks to it. But he's been here since he was 9. Local lads, he's put everything into it, and basically you've ended up in a place where he's not getting what he wants out of it. The club, obviously, the successive managers are happy to use him in a certain way, but that isn't the way that he wants. He wants to play regular football. Liverpool aren't going to offer him that. He's not going to be the first pick that he wants to be or thinks he should be. And, so they took a fee for him. His contract was running out, and he starts off on a new adventure. And for me, there's no hard feelings. I think, all the stuff about Scousers being in the team or the squad, that is a little bit of a shame, and there is that stat kicking about there hasn't been a Liverpool squad with no Scouser in it for, I can't remember what it is now.
The whole of the Premier League area.
The whole of the Premier League area, there you go. Obviously, you got Dan's come back for the under-21s. Could he maybe force himself into the squad at some point and make sure that isn't a thing? But yeah, from a romantic perspective, I think it's always nice that there's a lad who's come all the way through and is playing for Liverpool. That shouldn't be a reason to make a decision on him one way or another, and I don't think it ever was, despite plenty of people, he only got in because he was Scouse. Fucking bullshit. He got in because he was good enough, he got in because he worked hard, he got in because he had talent, and he got in because he adapted the way he played a lot as well. I mean, you think about the lad with flair who was doing Rabbonas and putting stuff in the top bin. He knocked a lot of that in the head to be more of a system player, to get more football. Obviously, Klopp used to talk him up quite a lot. Got a lot of minutes last season. But yeah, as I say, I'm going around in circles here to say the same thing, which is it made sense for all parties ultimately, I think.
I agree, but it's still a shame. And on the Scouts thing, obviously, it doesn't matter to the Italian champions that he's a Scouser. That's not why they've bought him. They bought him because he's a good footballer.
Yeah.
And I think that we see how good he is over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. So, reports suggest, as we kind of alluded to earlier, that he won't be replaced. In the world in which we're still going to keep playing the same system, it looks like there's 2 midfield starting slots between Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister, Endo, Nioni, and even maybe James McConnell. But obviously, we've said before, Szoboszlai would get some minutes at the 10 position, particularly if, as expected, Elliott leaves. Curtis played 2,200 minutes in midfield, not counting the right back stuff, last season, which is twice as much as Nioni and McConnell combined in their entire careers. Now, you said before about Endo and about him being limited. Do you think that maybe Liverpool needs to try and move him on and use that money in the spot in the squad to try and bring someone in? Would you prefer to see McConnell go on loan than be a...
Well, it seems like pulled back on that because he was going to go to Preston, wasn't
He
he?
was, yeah.
And now apparently they've gone back on that idea because they're basically saying he's near to getting minutes for the first team. On Endo, it sort of remains to be seen whether the new manager fancies him. As I've said already, like I like him. I like his attitude. I think, the game he got injured at Sunderland, summed them up really. You know what you're getting from him, and you know what you're not getting from him. And there's a time and place to, smash glass on the Endo, but I'm not sure it's as a starter for Liverpool.
No.
He's 33, is he?
I'm not sure. Let me just check that.
I mean, he's cracking on. Is my point.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how many clubs would be queuing up to sign him.
He is 33. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And I mean, in terms of his contract, I believe he's only got 1 more year as well.
Yeah.
So
this is the problem with the squad. This is back to. I feel like I'm saying that, like pull the cord out my back while I say it all again. But the strategy and management of the squad over a number of years has not been good.
No.
Not in terms of getting people in terms of getting people signed up to contracts, in terms of getting fees for people leaving the club. It's all not being great. And I think it's all solidifying in a squad that looks light with a new manager expected to work miracles with it. And, I like McConnell. I think he's all right, neat and tidy player. But, again, it's that thing of, is he absolute Premier League quality? Is he Champions League quality? It's the same with Kumas, isn't it? Like, I like him. I think he's got something about him. I think he did all right when he came off the bench. I made up for him that he's got some, Premier League minutes and all of that kind of thing. And right now he is definitely an option. But it's the same thing again of, I mean, don't even want to tempt fate by saying it, but work it out.
Yeah. If in a big game, Champions League game, and the Swedish fella has to come off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so we've got a few minutes here. Just before we go over to the subscriber show, well, just for you to know, we're going to be talking about Manchester United in the subscriber show. So if you need cheering up, come on over to us. We're over there. We're going to be on Patreon, but you can do it as a YouTube member if you prefer staying here on YouTube. We'll be start recording that in a few minutes. We normally like to take a little bit of a break, a mental break.
Why do you think Harry Maguire tackles his own players?
I mean, he used to play for Hull, didn't he?
Yeah,
He's probably having a bit of a flashback.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, more nuggets of gold like that coming up in the subscriber show. We'll also be talking about Tottenham. Might do a little bit about Aston Villa and talk about the legend that is Bobby Faulkner. If you don't know his name, Google it. And we're also going to be doing some non-football stuff as well. But before we wrap, I just wanted to talk about Trent. And I know that some people are, oh God, why? But there's a certain element about his new interview that I'm fascinated by. Firstly, why is he doing a new interview now? And secondly, the thing that I noticed about that whole interview, and it's quite a wide-ranging interview about a lot of topics, one of those topics wasn't Real Madrid and how much he's enjoying playing for Real Madrid and how much he loves working with Jose Mourinho. That was conspicuous by its absence. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it. And, it's obviously set all kinds of horses running with all kinds of theories and lots of people asking each other whether they'd have him back and all this kind of stuff. I mean, he's got a contract till 2031.
Yeah.
So, there's that. And I think, there's lots of dot joining, isn't it? Like it's classic sort of social media stroke clickbait journalism, in action really. I mean, I didn't watch the Real Madrid game, but I've seen the clip of he plays the ball, it goes out of play, and you see Mourinho losing his shit. Then that's added on to this interview, and then what he's actually saying about feeling hurt and upset, understanding the reaction though. It's all like, oh, is he trying to pave the way to come back? Then there's lots of people saying, I'd have him back. We miss him. We haven't got his skill set in the side anymore. All of those things. I just don't see it happening. Simple as that.
Zero turds.
Truth or truth or turd. It's 5 turds.
Of course, yeah, 5.
It's 5 turds. It's absolute shite. He's not coming back.
No, I don't think so either. I think he probably just wants to be able to walk around in the city and not get ambushed. Which I mean, it's fair enough. Like,
maybe don't learn Spanish before you sign for a Spanish club, then, lad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't want to go too deep in it. I just wanted it as a little bit of an epilogue at the end of the show.
But like some it couldn't help but stir up some of it for me. We talked about it all at the time. But the Spanish thing was one thing. Some people say that's a bit daft because if he knew he was going, why can't he learn Spanish? Okay, then. But if that's the case, I think he could have been truthful about where he was going, what he was doing, and what his plans were much earlier than he decided to be. And I still don't understand to this day what he was doing in terms of gesturing and all of this talking and putting his finger on his mouth and doing that towards Liverpool. What were you on about, mate? Also, as well, another aside in terms of people assuming he's having an absolutely shit time is, you must have seen it where he's signing the autograph. That's terrible. Lad.
It's bad. It's bad. I mean, there's a part of me that feels like the kids themselves won't care because they got the picture, they got the thing.
It doesn't look good.
No, it does not look good. Bless him. Well, we'll see. Obviously, he'll come back to Anfield this season when Liverpool end up playing Real Madrid in the Champions League quarterfinals. So we've all got that to look forward to, and we'll talk more about him at that point. But until then, let's wrap it.
Hang on, we've got one more. Sorry, mate, we've got one more.
Oh.
We got one more super chat, and so we have to mention it because he's thrown £10 in.
Oh,
10
wow.
English pounds.
That feels like a 99th minute equaliser.
I know. Thanks, Robbie. He says, well, boys, how was your weekend? Mine was a shambles, just like Liverpool. As for new signings, more chance of Scooby-Doo and the mystery gang finding out who we're signing because Hughes doesn't know. Can't really top that.
No, that's a great way. Cheers, everyone.
Off the Reds.
We'll see you next week.